What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the I Tap That Cigar Show presented by Corona Cigar. I'm your host, Kevin Shahan, and I'm coming to you live from the Drew Estate Experience Asset Studios here on the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Kerr Viajante of Stogie Road Cigars.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm going to throw up. I'm so nervous for tonight. Literally, everybody knows I take like my nervous poop. I did like 3 nervous poops, and I still want to throw up. It was a triple nervous poop, like back to back, like minutes between them. And like I said, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel like I'm ill prepared for tonight. I don't feel like I'm prepared for someone as majestic as Casey Haugen. I don't know. Okay. I feel like I'm
back to back. If you did 3 poops,
yes, yeah.
Right.
So, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Producer Jessica's in the background.
Yeah.
All of the wonderful things and the banners and the flashes and make sure that we're not acting like idiots. Jess, how are you?
Except she doesn't have our background on for the 2-person setup. So that's
okay.
Okay. Say hello, Jessica.
Hello.
So she's been feeling a little under the weather.
Oh, is that why I'm like not saying anything?
Yeah.
Basically, I'm ignoring.
Yeah, she's ignoring us. So
oh God, I'm gonna spit my freaking water all over the place, Kevin. You jerk.
Oh my God. So a little housekeeping. Last couple weeks we've been reminding everybody about the Boston Jimmy climbing Mount Fuji for autism. Link is in the video description below. Same with Matt and Nicole from the Smokin Tobacco Show. They're doing their annual thing for the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation. Definitely check out those links below. 2 great causes. Yep. So help support them. And feel like it's a Wednesday. God, it's so far off. I just been so busy at work. These days have been running together. So
today was a very it sounds stupid, but it was a very fast but long day.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like today was like I woke up, next thing I know it was 3:00. But then once 5:30 hit, 6:00, I grabbed something. It just felt like a long day. So
that was way for me yesterday. I woke up and then I had like a whole list. I had some unboxings to do. I had several more videos to edit. And next thing you know, it's like I start freaking out about noon. Like if I don't have the majority, because I like noon, your day's winding down. Like there's not much left to the day at noon. So if I don't have a bunch of work done by noon, I start freaking out and then I don't know, pushing. So
Manny's claiming that they're getting close to finding something probably on Oak Island.
Ooh,
if they do, you owe them a 5-pack.
Oh, is that I didn't have the comments on. So we got Cigar Show Tim. Oh, hey, look, it's my buddy Cigar Show Tim, making me even more nervous for doing the show tonight.
Tim.
Yeah, and Manny making me nervous about that. Let's get right into it. The CigarMedics humidimeter cut and light, and we'll just stop talking about how I'm going to throw up.
Oak Island making you nervous?
What's that?
Oak
Island. Yeah, Oak Island. What are they going to find? I'm all jitters, So remember with the CigarMedics humidimeter, you'll always know when to hold them and know when to smoke them. And Kerr, what are you smoking tonight?
I don't know. I think I'm going to start off with the Crux Bull and the Bear.
I love that. I love that band. I'm starting off with the Crux Epicure. Look at the cello on that. This thing's, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old. It's at least 2 years old. I wish more people would use that vintage like blue. I don't know if anybody can see that. It's such a gorgeous shade of a turquoise, aquamarine. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what you call that.
That green reminds me of like the 50s green.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's that vintage. Yeah,
vintage. Like you expect like a Packard at that color.
That's it. Like 62%. Right.
I'm at 67.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, Jessica, what are you smoking tonight?
Just a random house blend that I had because I'm not really feeling the greatest. I'm a little stuffy.
Yeah,
I think I'm starting to get allergies.
Oh,
The weather here is starting to change and can't make its mind up. It's like hot and then it's cold and it's windy and then it's rainy.
Yep.
So I just went with something like a light house blend, and I'm drinking water. So.
Same here. The weather's been, it was funny is the back of our house, the woods were, with the fall and winter, everything has been, brown, and you can see the houses, behind us and stuff. It seemed like it rained for like 3 days, and then overnight it's all green. You can't see anything.
Oh yeah.
It happened that fast.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go outside. You notice things like that. You just hole yourself up in your office, and then you don't have to worry about the weather, because I never notice when shit changes outside.
Jen lets me out from time to time when there's work to do.
Does she?
Yeah.
You got a young, strapping lad at home.
And I like being outside, so
yeah.
I notice it a lot. And, especially when the pollen starts happening, it just covers everything.
There's people out there.
There's people out there. There's bugs out there. There's no reason to ever go outside if you don't have to.
That's stupid.
Yeah. All right. All right. We're gonna. Yeah. Let me get my cigar rest here, and then we'll start the show here.
I'm with Jess. I do like being outside. I do.
Yeah.
Kevin is not an outdoors person.
Kevin's not an outdoorsy person.
My friend Dustin, I'm trying to go and plan to go see him in Colorado. Him and his wife are about to have a baby soon, so I'm trying to get out there either before the baby or after the baby. And Kevin's like, oh, maybe I'll come with you. And my friend Dustin knows how much Kevin doesn't like to camp. He's like, oh, I got the pop-up camper all ready for Kevin.
Yeah, that's it.
I was like, that will never happen.
Kevin's also got an Uber and a hotel ready for Kevin.
Thought the Rocky Mountains would be rockier.
That's it. So I don't know what I expect. I expect to get off the airport and John Denver's playing on the speaker
like
is what I'm assuming. So all right. Before we bring on our guest tonight, let's take a moment to thank all of our show partners: JC Newman Cigars, CigarMedics, Amendola Cigars, We Are the Muscle, Jake Wyatt Cigars, Illusione Cigars, Deep in Flavor, Deep in Your Mind, K by Karen Berger Cigars, Corona Cigar, and of course, Drew Estate and Experience Acid. Manny, Kevin is stalling for dear life before bringing on the guest. It's going to be one of them shows I get real nervous, and at the end I'm like, oh my God, that was the greatest show we have ever done. So, and then Manny, if he gets up halfway to the show, he went to go poop. No, it's usually because I got to go pee. I'm drinking the Bacardi and Diet. So, all right, what's waiting patiently in the Experience Asset Green Room is Casey Haugen of Crux Cigars.
Casey, hey guys, how you doing?
It is Haugen, right? As in, like,
it is Haugen.
Okay, so I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways, but like the majority has been Haugen. So
yeah, that means they've heard me say it. So
okay,
if they hadn't, they never got it right before.
So how you doing? Where are you coming from tonight?
West Palm Beach, Florida. Our office is based here in Boca Raton, so I happen to be home this week, which is nice. Specifically because I planned my schedule around sitting on my couch for the Masters weekend that we just had. So I make sure I had to fly back. Took last weekend and worked from home, but I had my travel schedule planned where I had 5 days, 6 days at home, and I leave again Wednesday morning. So,
okay. So Boca Raton, do you ever do anything with the Red Meat Lovers Club down there at the Boca Raton?
So we recently just were introduced with them after I met them at one of the cigar shops in Boca. I can't remember which one, through a friend of ours. But so we've been talking recently about figuring something out. I think they did a golf tournament and then a couple of tastings or something. But so more recently just met them probably within the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay, yeah.
We moved up from Miami because we were in Boca. We moved up to Boca during COVID.
Okay.
So life was shut down. We were on an island, it felt like, which was like I heard you say, you want to be left alone and, in your own quarters, which, we made a nice little space for our people. So,
yeah.
But we felt like we were on our own island there in Boca. Not a lot happening there. And, but yeah, it's definitely a nice place to be. So
especially from Miami, you left that hustle and bustle, but I mean, Boca and West Palm is still big, but it's not Miami busy.
No, that was 100%. I mean, it was specifically moved. We moved our warehouse, almost 3 years ago. I think it was little over 3 years ago, from Hialeah Gardens, where we had our first warehouse for, I guess we're being 6 years it was there. And now we're, because when I originally moved and we found the warehouse space, Miami was short term for me. Like I knew it was a starting point. We had a great collaboration out of the warehouse and distribution center that got us going, and we ended up staying there a lot longer than ever. But for me, it wasn't sure moving into state to start this company. My cousin, he said, pick Florida or Texas, so we picked Florida, and then found a place that we could do it. And then it was okay. Well, then figure out where you want to live. And I'd come down here, for years with like spring break and some trips, but I didn't know life. So, you just kind of find a spot and then kind of, research as you move through the territories and learn a few things. And after a while, Naples was a little too slow for me, and West Palm seemed like it was the next closest best thing for me and kind of where I knew I wanted to live. So I moved the office from Miami to Boca because I still was working out of Miami, still living there for a couple of years. Well, it ended up being 1.5 years having the office in Boca and still living in Miami, which is way too far of a commute when I'm here and when I go to that office. But yeah, it's all worked out. Living in West Palm now literally live 7 minutes from the airport. So, which I seem to be moving through once or twice a week. So
Naples, I took care to go down to Naples when he came down for my birthday. We went down to Rocky Patel Burn down there.
Great place. And what's that place called? Mercado. Yeah, that's a cool little area, but half the year it's like a ghost town. Other than the people that are smoking and drinking, there's just, the summer, winter people. And it's a little slower than moving from Miami, living in Vegas. And I was like, yeah, it's a little slow for me. So ended up in West Palm, but Mercado area, that's a great area, great restaurants, obviously good cigars, and a lot of other good cigar shops in the area as well.
Oh yeah. Tons for sure.
You had a good time.
Yeah, we had a great time, great place. So, all right, so we're gonna start the show. So I reached out to a mutual friend because I was telling you beforehand. I had a lot. I like all our shows to be different than any other shows. You don't do a ton of interviews, but it seems like
I try not to.
Yeah, that's it. That's what everybody says. Try not to. So I reached out to a mutual friend of ours. I'm like, hey, Casey. Give me some info on Casey, something I can use, something different nobody else has asked. And she just came back with, Casey likes baseball and Diet Coke. And I go, all right, just gonna.
And she missed a little bit probably because the difference was baseball. Yes, I grew up playing it. My dad's been a college coach my whole life, and I played minor league baseball. But it's been 15 years, 14 years since I played, and yeah, if you ask me who was, name anybody for the World Baseball Classic that I did watch, I was like, who are these people? I'm disconnected absolutely from the Major League Baseball scene.
Don't worry, I'm not a baseball fan, so we don't have any baseball questions.
Perfect.
But so Kevin is a Diet Coke fan, so he wants.
I am a Diet Coke fan.
Are you disconnected
from
the Diet Coke world?
That's it. So strap in. And I'm more pissed off that they got rid of. They switched the lime Coke to ginger lime. The fuck likes ginger lime Diet Coke? Get out of here.
Well, the fact that you were drinking lime Diet Coke says something about you.
Yeah. Well, I like Bacardi and Diet with lime. Yeah. So I only drink Bacardi.
Go buy a lime.
Yeah, I kind of cut out the middleman there. of the middleman being
Yeah.
Jessica cutting my limes. So now I'm just back to having.
You're blaming Jessica for
Yeah.
that?
But
Yeah.
there is
Major league
definitely a
faux pas?
hierarchy of the quality of different Diet Cokes. I mean, you got can, bottle, glass bottle, and then the holy grail of all Diet Cokes is McDonald's, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
I never
mean, the
drank
holy grail
Diet
of
Coke
all.
until I met you.
The only reason I go to McDonald's is to get Diet Coke, but then I buy a cheeseburger. So like,
Yeah.
like I will literally go through the drive-through just to get the Diet Coke. Oh, while I'm here, I might as well. Get
Yeah.
fatter.
Yeah. While I'm here, why not add on?
I mean, it's a large
700
Diet
calories?
Coke for $1.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's the holy grail. There's nothing better than McDonald's Diet Coke.
I agree. It's
Mhm.
perfect. So, all right. So we
And
got
there is
that.
a reason. If the people watching, if you Google it, don't quote me, but there is actual evidence of why they have the best Diet Coke.
I can't remember. It was a different syrup, or it was like their
It's
pressures. It was
They
something.
have a different. They have a deal with Coca-Cola about the way that they have it delivered, that nobody else gets it, and it's strategically better, and they win.
Yeah, it was the same with. I watched how they like one of the shows on how they make ketchup, and it was this company was, and they make a whole bunch of different ketchups for a bunch of different companies, and at one point they had to like shield the cameras because they were making ketchup specifically for McDonald's. And like, we cannot give away, because it wasn't the same ketchup just going in different bottles, restarting the line and adding like a couple of secret ingredients. I'm like, there it is. Same with their Diet
That's
Coke.
one of my favorite shows is that show, How It's Made. And you can watch them make rubber bands. It's amazing.
I have watched every episode ever made like 10 times. So I love How It's Made.
Do it again. I need to re binge all of them.
I took like a year off, and then I started, and they were all new to me.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
It's
How
the
it's
torture.
how it's
Just
made.
sounds so happy.
Yeah, how it's made, and then like the British counterpart. How do they do it? Which everything.
I don't
is
know
like,
that one. I don't know that one.
That's a great. It's exactly like How It's Made, but it's like everything's in Britain, so you learn how like British stuff is made.
Do they speak in British?
Yes, they have like a little accent. So, but it's how do they do it? Or how do they? Yeah.
Ashes and
How do they
alcohol
do it?
Syrup to ice melt ratio. Plus, they come in steel containers and
not boxes like other restaurants. Oh, okay. That is a.
I knew the world of Google machines were going to help us on
They're
that
going to
one.
help out.
Yeah.
Well, I really wish I was smoking right now, but unfortunately, we have a monsoon going through my balcony, and I didn't drive the 35 minutes to my office to smoke in my office. So I'm sitting in my dining room. I'm going to hold a cigar and taste the wrapper, but I
and reminisce from hours ago.
And I did pair it with a nice. What am I drinking? Burba Vino della Toscana from 2019.
Sounds delicious.
Some Italian red wine.
That's it. So, all right. So we're going to start off with some baseball talk.
You just said you were
Not new baseball. So this is, so I couldn't figure out where the conversation was going to go. So I kind of flipped it, and we're going to start where I normally end. Your dad, legendary
Correct.
St. John's University baseball coach, Jerry Haugen. What are 3 things that he taught you in life that you incorporate in your daily routine?
Well, life like baseball is a game of failure. You fail 7 out of 10 times in baseball, you're an all-star, you're in the Hall of Fame. You're going to continue to have failures every day. I mean, growing up with that as a concept seems really pessimistic. But realistically, I think if our success rate on everything you do is 30%, you're going to be doing very, very high quality things. I mean, you learn from a lot of mistakes, and you just have that ability to adapt in the real world. Number 2 was never take a third called strike. And I probably did that more times than most, because I did have the collegiate record for strikeouts for a while at St. John's University. I was the all-time leader with strikeouts for a minute.
That's awesome. No,
it is. I mean,
yeah.
Like they say, why does Brett Favre throw the most interceptions? Well, he played the longest. Like I got to play. I was a 4-year starter, so I did win some of those terrible awards. And you said 3 things that he taught me was, he goes, anytime you can get on the golf course, go do it, because he grew up but when I was growing up, he was a scratch golfer. and finding something to do that is longevity of life, keep you active, find something that your passion and your heart's in, and then you can go be active is going to be good for the soul for a long period of time.
So he was a football coach, baseball coach, and then he golfed on the side.
So he's still a defensive coordinator.
He
still does it. His 1976 graduated from the alma mater of mine, St. John's University as well. He was hired as the defensive coordinator right away. And where he graduated, hired defensive coordinator. He's been there since 1976. Was hired as the baseball. Was also the head hockey coach for 4 years.
Wow. And
he was an assistant basketball coach. This is early. This is like late 70s, early 80s. But he's still the defensive coordinator today. He is. They don't give college football coaches wins technically, but he is the winningest college defensive football coordinator of all time. He's got more wins than any defensive coordinator ever to do it. And then he's been a baseball coach since 1977, where he's got, iconic. He's got his own field. We've got Haugen Field. I say it's what I've done. Realistically, I've done nothing. But my name's on it. They have an incredible field in Collegeville, Minnesota, which is a great name for a city to have a college, by the way. I don't know how they got lucky and found that city. Yeah. And then, there's Haugen Field, throws out first pitches at Twins games. He's a Minnesota baseball icon. So he's gone around the world for sure.
So what was it like going to college? First of all, did you ever think of going to another college? That's a lot of pressure.
I was told if I got not a full ride, because Division I baseball doesn't even give out full scholarships. I think they only have like 11.9 full scholarships for their 30-some athletes. But if I got to go to when I grew up, I always wanted to play for the University of Minnesota. It's the only Division I baseball school in Minnesota. So, we didn't think large because, the world was small then. And if I got a scholarship or act to walk on or whatever, that was the only other option for baseball for me was go to, the University of Minnesota. And I was a Minnesota All-Star, first team, high school, whatever. I was technically the number 3 catcher in the state coming out of high school in 2003, I think it was. First one was drafted. Second one got the scholarship. So he had more potential because he was 6'2", 220. I was 5'9", 5'9" and a quarter, 180 pounds. But he had more potential. But I had a great career at St. John's, got to play independent minor league baseball. But more importantly, I also got to play football. So I got to win a national title, which we did my freshman year. And being part of one of the most historic Division III schools in college football, I wouldn't have, if they'd have let me go back and tell you everything that I would have done. And it's really hard to change it because we had such an unique experience being a college football athlete at St. John's. So playing for my dad, he didn't really coach me directly, my teams. He obviously taught me everything I knew, but he always coached my brother's team, who was a year behind me. But so when I got to St. John's, playing for him was literally father, son, player, coach. Other than he was probably harder on me during college than he was on the other players because he expected more but growing up, he was not that pushy dad. We did what we wanted. We got to play what we wanted. He probably put bats in my hands more and, other sports equipment a lot, but it wasn't, do you want to go practice? I'd have to be like, Dad, can we play catch? Can we go to the range? Can we do this? Can we go to the batting cages? And then he just fueled the fire with everything we possibly could need with the knowledge and the time. So, other than going to the University of Minnesota, my thought was, there's nobody else in this world that I'd rather play for.
Yeah, Kerr played college football as well.
Where'd you play at?
I played in Dover, Delaware, at Wesley College.
Okay. At where?
Wesley,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they unfortunately after COVID they got hit pretty hard. They actually got purchased by Dell State, but I played many years ago, eons ago.
Yeah, you graduated in like 1999.
No,
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was done. I played 89 to 92, but I think over the last 10 years, they actually built up their Division III program pretty well. head coach died, and then COVID hit, and now it's Dell State.
Dell State.
Yep.
Now what position did you play, Casey, in football?
I was a wide receiver and a kick returner. I played wide receiver all 4 years, but I kick return for my junior year. And then apparently I was good at blocking. So then I was on kick return, but I wasn't the returner, which was sad because you felt like that's the highlight position. But
to
then
get your ass creamed. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but the difference is people don't realize the big collisions in kick return is because they usually put a lot of big, burly, blocky guys. But realistically, if you're faster and position-wise, all you have to do is bump a guy off of his route while he's going to make a tackle. And I think in 13 games, my guy never got close because I was faster. I mean, at the time, being a white guy from central Minnesota, a 4.5 40 was incredibly fast. So I was a blazer. I could move. So I literally, you just ran next to a guy and he's looking at you like, when are you going to block me? I'm like, I'm going to block you about 10 yards before you get to make a tackle. And you just literally have to give a shove. And I don't think I ever had a real collision in any kick return as a return blocker. Getting drilled as a return kicker happened every play. But yeah. So, but no, predominantly a wide receiver.
Okay. So what
Me
what
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
My blazing speed.
Yeah. You're blazing.
1999.
I don't know. I mean, times have changed. You could 4.8, 4.9 40s could have been faster. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, a 4.8 40 back then for a middle linebacker was pretty good.
That's still not bad for a middle linebacker.
Yeah. Throwing around 230, 235. I guess it was a decent moving at that speed.
Yeah. I get it's like a goddamn freight train. So what'd you major in college?
So I was one of the smartest college kids ever. For number one reason, I went in with the thought process of all my friends are going to have these high expectations of these majors. They want to go law, they want to go doctor, whatever. I was like, I'm just going to go business management right away because you're all going to drop out of those programs anyways. And realistically, unless I want to be a lawyer or a doctor, well, not even a lawyer, because you can still go to law school with a management degree, business management degree, which was my original thought. But I was a business major. I had some specialty, which you'd have to go back and look. They had 3 different business programs in St. John's, and I probably picked the one that had the least amount of math. I'm sure that's exactly how I picked it.
Yeah, that's what you want in your business guy. Less.
Yeah, like what do you want? Oh, whatever the least amount of math is. That's what I want. And I'll never forget. I read a study my sophomore year in college. I was a great high school student. I was like a 3.9 something high school student. Had a great GPA. Went to class, but I also went to public school. So I mean, it was pretty easy. But then I got to college and I got a real awakening of attendance was important apparently. Because classes were optional. This is a funny story. I get a call into the head baseball coach's office freshman year, also my father. Yeah. And I get a call. I call up to the office mid-semester, first year, and he goes, "So how are things going, son?" And I'm like, "Yeah, things are good, Dad. What's up?" He goes, "Oh, well, we don't usually do this for all the athletes and all the student athletes, but we generally, the first semester is kind of the hardest transition." And he goes, "I just want to talk to you about classes, how they're going. Baseball's in the spring. It's still fall semester. I know you're playing football, but," and he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Things are great." He goes, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, things are great, because college, you don't have daily assignments. You don't have it's literally like 3 tests and 3 papers that matter. And we hadn't done any of them yet. At least I had thought." So he goes, "Well, you are enrolled in 4 classes and you have 2 D's and 2 F's." And I was like, "That's impossible. Nobody's told me that. I don't know anything about this." So I found out from my father that I was failing out of college freshman year, first semester. Obviously I had to turn that around to stay in college. So somehow turned that into a 2.5, I think a couple of B's and a couple of C's. I had to drop one course because apparently I was not even close to making that one resurrected. So you become that and you find, the difference of real life versus being in the structured life of that your parents have you, that, actual schools have you. And then you go to college and you have to somehow flip the switch and be an adult, which took me a minute, which wasn't wine at the time that we were drinking, but I was introduced to alcohol at a private Catholic school in central Minnesota. Heavily.
Heavily. So it's
in central Minnesota, where there's two seasons. There's deer season and there's drinking season. And so we definitely enjoyed. So you figure it out, and then you learn how to pass classes by showing up. Worst case scenario, they feel bad for you and they'll give you a C.
The C is passing. It's like you're in
Casey.
college.
I always thought D's got degrees, but C's were.
It's like I'm paying you for my education.
But the difference is, as an athlete, you had to have I think it was like a 1.8.
Oh, really?
1.8 GPA. But then, and then in the MIAC, which is the conference St. John's was in, they had a 2.0 structure. So they were. Apparently academics is way more important. And I was like, well, I got that above 2.0 for the first semester. And then I ended up with that solid 2.5. But where I was going with that was, it was the amount of money you will make in your lifetime based on your college GPA.
Yeah.
And they broke it down by half points, like 3.5 and above, 3.0 and above, 2.5 and above, 2.0 and above, obviously 1.5 and, below. But they said, the most amount of money was made by students with 2.5 to 3.0 GPAs for a life experience, because they became business owners, they became entrepreneurs, and they literally hit it big. And they find it because they're probably personable because they have the ability to be social. Then the second was 3.5 and above, because those were your doctors, your lawyers, your traditional. But then the people that were 3.0 to 3.5 were those people that really wanted to go to school, but they weren't great at it, but they also tried too hard that they didn't get to go have a lot of fun. So I definitely aspired not to be above a 3.0 because I learned that I wouldn't make as much money. So you had to make sure you stayed eligible, but not get good grades when you realize you're not going to be a doctor.
You give me flashbacks.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, were you banking on the majors, you playing these sports, or did you kind of know that that wasn't going to maybe be an option?
Well, I thought for sure the fact that if you get a degree, that's good enough. You can go work somewhere, be miserable, have a 9-to-5. I actually signed a contract right out of college with Northwestern Mutual to be a insurance salesman. Thankfully, I never had to show up for day one because I got signed. Which would have been a great job. It was $80,000. This was 2007. Would have been $80,000 first year out of college. It would have been a ton of money. I had never made more than $20 an hour. So, but I signed an independent baseball contract. Ended up doing that for 2.5 years. Got extended on my start dates for Northwestern Mutual, and never made it back there. Thankfully, a guy named Todd Grabner, who probably forgot about me 15 years ago. I'll never forget his name because he gave me the opportunity to extend my start date and give me the opportunity to go play independent minor league baseball, which changed my life because then I got to travel all over the country, all over Canada. And then when I got back to Minnesota after I retired, meaning nobody would pay me, peanuts to play baseball anymore. I was like, I'm not living here. Otherwise, I'd be a 9-to-5 central Minnesota living guy with, cold, less experience, less fun, miserable, like most of my friends from college.
Yeah, that was one thing. I can find just about anything online, and I could not find a picture of you in a uniform for the Red Hawks, the Otters, or the Shreveport Sports. Couldn't find anything. And
keep going, I'll find you one.
Yeah. So yeah, it was so you traveled around for a couple of years. I've got friends that played AAA ball. We got customers of mine that play AAA. What's it like for an independent team? Like, what does that entail? Traveling? So traveling on your own? Do you have a bus?
No, yeah. So it's you would assume it's essentially affiliated ball because it's other than that, it's very, very similar to depending on which independent league you're in. And I was in 3 different ones in 3 years, but the first league that I played most of my games in, which was with Fargo, which at the time was called the Northern League. They said it was high A, double A level, guys coming up, guys going down. You had host families you lived with. stayed in hotels on the road. You had a bus. You literally did nothing other than show up to the park at 3 o'clock every day and go to bed at 3 a.m. every morning, because you played night games and, you traveled around. I mean, cities we were in were Winnipeg, not Ontario, well, in Ontario, but Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton. Then we were in Chicago, Gary, Indiana, Kansas City, Missouri. Obviously, I was based out of Fargo the first year, and you just played, and you wouldn't really know the difference of single A, double A. That's what the kind of the caliber we were at. Guys throwing mid-90s, and they didn't have contracts because they couldn't control it, so it was kind of scary sometimes. Got a great story about getting hit in the chest with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. That's
my God.
Story. But it was incredible because most of it was bus, but we did fly. We had to drive to Winnipeg, but then we would fly in Winnipeg to Calgary and Edmonton because at the time you didn't need a passport to drive to Canada, and they didn't have that card or whatever they have now is. But you couldn't fly across the border without a passport, and they couldn't make sure everybody had a passport. So the drive from Winnipeg to Fargo was only like 3 hours, I believe. If somebody wants to Google and check that, you're more than welcome to fact check me. But I believe it was like 3-4 hours. So we would do that. We'd always have that first series in Winnipeg, and then we'd fly up. So it was a lot of fun. I think those 3 years were the biggest failures of my life, but the best time I've ever had. If I could have been unsuccessful doing that for 10 years, I probably would have been a very happy human.
What's the pay like?
So my first contract I signed was $800 a month, guaranteed for 1 day. They could cut you tomorrow. And they was also not paid during the off season. So literally, I believe if we ended on if the season ended on the 22nd, they'd pay us the 1st through the 22nd. It was. And then there was some guys that were making some decent money, maybe $3-4 grand a month, with perks. But I was a rookie, no name rookie, signed a couple 7 games into the season, picked up on the side of the highway, literally by a Metro or by a Greyhound bus. True story. Got picked up off an overpass. My last contract was $1,600 a month. So I obviously increased, but then, I got obviously released and fired and the whole deal. So the pay was awesome because I was still a college kid. I didn't care. I had 3 bills. I had I think by the time I ended, I had a student loan bill that had kicked in. I think I had a $180 car payment and car insurance. Other than that, I didn't pay for food. I didn't pay for lodging. I had meal money on the road. So we would always go to Walmart and buy loaves of bread, peanut butter and jelly and bologna and take the $17, $20 a day that we used to get for a 10-day road trip. You'd spend $30. Now I got another $170. I was rich. Bats were free. Gloves were free. The only thing I think I used were my own pads as a catcher because I was short. They'd never had the short guy pads.
Yeah. Now, looking at your bio, you were working in the cigar industry at the same time as you were.
So in the winter, I would work at my cousin. So in the off season, or when I got one of the years I got released twice mid-season, so I'd go back and get some hours. But I worked at Tobacco Grove, which is Jeff, who's my cousin and the founder of our company, president. He's been in the business since the early 90s, 1992. Was when he started his first retail shop in central Minnesota. So I started working for him in 2007, worked there in the off season from 8. And then finally in 9, when I ended up getting out of the retail business is when I got out of the cigar business for a few years. But so that's when I first really got introduced and really fell in love with, premium cigars. I'd had them around him a few times, but until I was done, we'd have a cigar occasionally, but didn't know anything. So I learned my first knowledge from him starting in 2007.
Okay, that's what was my next question. Where did the cigar start? I didn't know if you guys were smoking, but if you're only making $800 a month, you're definitely not smoking.
No, at that point,
a lot of super premium cigars.
No, I was more like stealing, meaning, Jeff, hey, can I have some cigars? and he would give me. Here's a picture. I found one real quick for you.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
This was our Fargo. This was in Fargo, my rookie year.
So do you have any of the? Did you keep any of the uniforms? Do you have anything from memorabilia?
My mom has most of it. I've got a couple of things, but I gave everything to my mom. That's always the way it was. I remember one of the coolest things we got. They had a breast cancer awareness night, and so we wore pink jerseys.
Yeah.
And then they would silent auction off all the jerseys. And I mean, this is, small town, little, I mean, we'd average 4,000 or 5,000 fans a game, but like small town. So most of the jerseys would go for $200, $300, $400, $500. Well, my mom, who needed this pink jersey, was standing up there bidding against a guy who was instructed to go get the jersey for his wife because she wanted my jersey. And I'll get into why in a second. But so they're standing there, and she writes a number, he writes a number, kind of like that old, skit where like they stand there and write down sound. And he just looks at it and goes, "That's my son." And he just goes, "My wife told me to buy this." And now he's at an impasse. So he goes, "Okay, you can have it." And the only reason she wanted it was because her favorite number was 4. Had nothing to do with me. But my jersey sold for the most amount of money that day, and my mom paid for it.
Oh my God.
But then they gave her another jersey because she was the second highest bidder. So it wasn't number 4, but she wanted it. So I actually sold 2 jerseys that day. And I was the 10th man, the nobody, Mr. Hustle, maybe kind of guy, but like nobody knew my name, except my mom. So yeah, props to Joanne.
That's awesome.
And then that guy had to go home, and it's like his mom was bidding on it, so.
Oh no, she was there. She was just watching the game.
Oh, she's just watching it.
I did sign her jersey for her. So I was okay. I did that for her. So my mom's got most of it. My mom's got my first hit, the first bat, the jersey, anything I ever had. I think I might have a sweatshirt maybe, but my mom's got everything from every sports memorabilia that I thought was accomplishable. I always give to her because she was the unsung hero. Obviously my dad being the coach, so everybody would always, but my mom had, I have 3 brothers and sisters. So my mom was shuttling us around, taking us to practice. My mom was a pretty good athlete too. And obviously I got these genes somewhere, and I don't try to give my dad as much credit. But my mom was, she got she's got everything. Whatever I have, which I'd have to go back and look. It's been 15 years now. Jeez, we're getting old. 14 years or whatever it's been. But no, mom's got it all.
So brothers and sisters, any athletes between them?
Thankfully I can hold it over my brother a little bit. No, we were all athletes. My sister, who was a 3-year starter in high school in softball, hockey, and soccer. She had 12 letters in high school. I only had like 8 or 9. I'd have to count them, maybe 7 or 8 because I didn't start that. My brother was a phenomenal athlete, played football, hockey, baseball. And my younger sister was a softball, played college, and she was on the dance team and a cross-country skier.
Wow.
So I think I was probably the 3rd best athlete in the family, but I probably had the best work ethic when it came to sports. My brother was by far the most talented. He was fantastic. He was one of those guys that he was throwing high 80s, low 90s, in high school, and just didn't love it as much as I did. So I worked harder at it, and I wanted to obviously not be beat out by my younger brother, So I was a catcher, and we played a lot of the same positions. But then we played college ball together, and my sister didn't play. My older sister didn't play in college, but everybody was. It was sports. I mean, we didn't have any hobbies other than that because team sports were cheaper than individual sports.
Yeah. What about now? Nieces, nephews, sports. Coming.
Now I have 11 nieces and nephews under 7 years old.
Oh, okay, so under 7. Okay, so
yeah, all of my siblings have children. My stepbrother now has 2. So trying to develop who's going to be what. Obviously, they married people outside of our family, thank goodness. So they had to get some other genes in. But, my sister and brother, or my older sister, obviously her kids are really into like T-ball now. My brother's kids are all going to they're Central Minnesota athletes because they're living the same life we did. I'm pretty sure he's going to be, he's either going to be a stunt devil because he's got no fear. He's 5. Well, he's 5 next week. But I get videos every week of him hitting T-balls and, he's a wrestler. I think he won a 5-year-old wrestling competition a couple weeks ago, like crazy stuff. My sister's kids are going to be maybe tight ends. Her husband, he's probably not going to watch this, but he knows. We've had long conversations about his athletic ability. He was a trier, but he loves sports. But he's pretty. That gene pool's going to hurt for a little while. He's not a big guy, not an athletic guy. My younger sister's kids could be fullbacks or tight ends. Not going to have hands for sure. They could play golf though. He's a hell of a golfer. He actually is a really good golfer, surprisingly.
Trier.
No, sports is still relevant every day. I mean, I play a lot of golf. I picked up tennis during COVID. Weirdly getting into pickleball because it's easy. You can,
my dad's into pickleball now. Yeah.
Well, you get to do, like I said, remember what my dad told me long ago? It was one of those things about like, find things that you can do for a lifetime that are active because they'll keep you happier. They'll keep you in shape. And once you become like, what's that word? Like still, there's a way smarter word than that.
Sedentary.
Something sounded better. Once you become non-movable, you can't do it. But if you don't stop moving, I mean, my dad's going to be 69 years old this year, and he still hits fungos, still throws BP. I mean, he still plays golf. He's in, as good a shape, but better than he was 10 years ago. So, like that's when you see all those guys that end up coaching until they're 80 and then they die a week after they retire because like they had to retire because they knew they were done. Like life was over. So he'll coach hopefully until he's 100 years old.
Yeah, it's the same with all the cigar makers. The guys that are working out in the fields in their 90s, 100s, they just keep on going. They just
do because when you have that motivation, that purpose, that activity, it's something to do and it's physical activity and you just stay relevant, I guess.
That's it. Stay moving. Now you had mentioned you left the cigar industry for a couple of years.
I did. I moved to Vegas.
Okay.
I walked into Jeff's office and said, "Hey Jeff, I got to turn in my 2 weeks." And he says, "You still work here?" I said, "I don't know. I had a shift yesterday." And he goes, "Oh." I go, "Yeah, but I got to turn it in like a week and a half ago."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh yeah? How's that working out?" I go, "Well, I'm leaving to Vegas on Tuesday, so I'm done." So I moved to Vegas, got a job working for a golf retail company doing concierge services, retail, wholesale, online sales, a bunch of different stuff. So it's kind of where I got my first real world experience running a business. Obviously working for Jeff, he was an entrepreneur and business owner. So I learned a lot from him, more than I did ever in business school those 4 years. I didn't go to class. But in those 3 years, I worked for him part-time, meaning off seasons, like 4 months a year. So that 1 year, total year, add those 4 or 5 months up at a time. I got to go, I ran a golf company. Took a company that was doing some, fittings and some apparel and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business by just adding anything that we could already use. We did fittings, we did golf tournaments, we did concierge service stuff, sold online. This was when eBay was big. And I did that for 4 years in Vegas. And then Jeff called me and said, "Hey, remember that cigar company we wanted to start?" And I said, "Yeah, what about it?" He goes, "You want back in? You want to do it?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not." Because to me, cigars was Minnesota. And I was living the life, at the time, 29 years old, living in Vegas, making great money, having fun, playing 150 rounds of golf a year, literally just enjoying life. And he goes, "No, you can live in Florida or Texas." I was like, "All right, I'm back in." So about 3 months later, I think it took us 6 months before I moved to Vegas. He'd been working on it that time. While the time I was in Vegas, to backtrack, he was spending the time going to the factories. For 3 years, he spent time, a week a month, in Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican, doing SWOT analysis through factories, learning the blending process, learning about tobacco. So he kind of took that like old boots on the ground thing, like, let me go figure this out. I'm going to take a week a month away from my family. So let's say over 3 years, he spent, 52 weeks, not a week a month. So 52 weeks over whatever those years, 50 trips, whatever it might've been. And, developed some relationships, had some, knowledge about blending, and he was pretty good at it because he's got a really great palate, and put together some blends, and finally called me and said, I got this idea. What he meant by, "Are you ready?" He was ready. He had developed some blends that he wanted to come out with. And so that would have been fall of 2013. And then in April, which would be 9 years of, maybe who knows exactly what day, I could go back and look when we sold our first cigar, but it was sometime in April in 2014, 9 years ago, we launched our first cigar. And then in that first, at the time, IPCPR we announced the entire portfolio. So he had been doing all this research, and it was his dream. And I love cigars. I've been smoking, box after box after box, smoking cigars, playing golf, drinking scotch, basically just being a mid-20s single guy in Vegas. Tough life. Yeah. But he pulled me out because I knew that wasn't forever. I knew that wasn't like a long-term life plan. And there was like a ceiling, and there's a ceiling working for somebody, so obviously, when Jeff offered, brought this to my attention, I was like, he was my older brother. I've looked up to him, most of my life. And there's probably a couple years that I didn't look up to him somewhere. But when I had the opportunity to get in business with him, I thought, couldn't be a better guy. That he was the guy. I remember being 12, 15 years old. He would roll up in a brand new BMW, and I was just like, that's super cool. Cool watches, cool cars, always had a stack of cash in his pocket. And I was like, that's who I want to be, So, he convinced me he's probably recruited me since the time I was 10 to sell cigars.
So what did he, when you came back? So, you come back home, you start, what was your role? He had all this developed.
So he had hired and partnered with his original business partner at Tobacco Grove was a part of it, and then had added another partner. So there's four of us. One was a designer, one was sales. I was going to be Nicaragua operations and importation and distribution. We had these four really thought out ideas of 4 people, 4 roles. We're going to work very, very, very well together. Well, as we find out, things change depending on, what people actually wanted to do, what people like to do, and just the growth of the company. 2 of those partners aren't even with us anymore. So not like they're not dead, but they're just not with the company. And they're still great people. They're still my friends today. I was just at one of their weddings a couple of years ago. But it just turned into a different deal. Like, you have a retail business, and then, traveling and manufacturing and sales, and it's a different life from retail when you're on the road traveling. And so one of the guys was tired of travel. I was like, I don't want to travel. And like, I transitioned in from going to Nicaragua a bunch to running our distribution to doing all the importing, doing our tobacco selection. So Jeff and I kind of mended together. We added a third business partner a few years later, and it was just us kind of wearing as many hats as we could and hiring people to do the hats that we can't, like accounting, because remember, I don't know anything about numbers. Finding those. And then we went through the rebrand, and then, we had kind of done a self-evaluation. We hired a third-party company to figure out, like, hey guys, life is, you got some good stuff going, but you got a lot of bad stuff going. And for us, the bad stuff was just the recognition of the product. The marketing campaign was a little bit weak, and, we needed to legitimize our brand. And we started looking at it from a completely different avenue in probably 2017. And then I think we ended up launching in 2018, but then COVID comes, 19, it launches. And then, so it's been out 3 or 4 years now, and it's changed the world for us. Now we've got direct salespeople in most of the country other than the corners, meaning, the Republic of California, which I respectfully say the Republic of California, and then the Northeast. But we have, we've got almost a full sales team, still hiring a few people because we're not completely covered. We have our own distribution center. We have our own, warehouse managing team. And now we have inside sales people, and like, we've built this into, I guess, a real company, you'd call it.
Yeah.
So 9 years later.
Yeah. Which factory did you end up going with? Or are you one of these companies that have, we hear it when we've heard it 100 times on the show, we start off at one factory, come to find out 2 years later, they were ripping us off or making crap.
Jeff did some great due diligence through his analysis through it. Like, our first manufacturing partner was the Plasencia family. Oh, okay. Everything we've ever produced, the Plasencia family that's still on the market, we still make with them. Like the Bull and Bear that Kerr's smoking was one of our first releases in 2014. It's an all Plasencia tobacco made at Plasencia factory. It's always been there, always will be. We also do have a second business partner down in Nicaragua for rolling, which is AJ Fernandez. Obviously, is second to none as well. I mean, those guys are, pretty two legit rolling partners. We'll always, look at other options. And we do source a lot of our own tobaccos. So we do bring tobaccos into our factory. I shouldn't say our factory, into our rolling areas where they have the factory. We don't own any of the factory.
Now, when you say you're sourcing, as in like you guys, you're individually going and sourcing that, or you're having Plasencia?
Yeah. So, I always take somebody way smarter than me.
Okay.
Like we said, if it's the ability to have the access of those two that want us to be successful, because the more cigars they roll for us, the more money they're going to pay us.
Yeah.
So, no, absolutely, we're very, very, very hands-on of tobacco selection, bale selection. Ricardo, who is one of Plasencia's best tobacco people ever. Hopefully he doesn't retire soon. I'll probably bribe him to stay out retired. But he's one of those guys that, like, I'll take him to meetings. I remember getting some advice from a dear friend of mine early on that says, tobacco selection in Nicaragua is like if you were going to buy a car in the United States and you don't check the engine, you will get a car that somebody says, "Oh yeah, it runs fine. Go ahead, buy it. Here's a used car." The guys, look at the tires, look at the speakers. But if you don't look under the engine, you don't have, truly a mechanic look at it, you don't know what you're buying. And I will never be a farmer. I obviously have learned a lot more about tobacco in 9 years, spending, I don't know how many, 80, 90, 100 trips down to Nicaragua over the years. I don't remember how many it's been, but always learning. So we've had great guidance. So Ricardo goes with me and literally selects most of it. I remember early on, a funny story was he'd be like, I'd be like, "What do you think of this?" And he would just go like this. And then I'd be like, "How much?" And he would give me a number. And then we'd say, "We'll pay this much for this." And they would say, "No, it's this much." And he just would look at them and be like, "It's not worth that." Because he knew, he knows. So being hands-on, knowing we're selecting, being a part of it, understands that we actually cared. We weren't just sending people to go buy it. Literally, I've been, my knees, ankles deep in all these Polones, literally pulling this shit apart to find different amount of tobacco to get to the middle. Because sometimes, like, if you don't expect the entire engine, you're going to end up with, "Oh, hey, check out this leaf. It's a beautiful leaf." And then you dig in and the rest of it's trash. So, no, Jeff and I have been and literally elbows deep digging through a lot of stuff. Obviously, after time, you have better relationships with people, and you know that if they sell me something at this point that I'm not going to buy once we get it, I'm going to just send it back and be like, "This is not what we bought." Because you have those years and years and years of relationships where they may be trying to get a fast one, but generally sometimes things get overlooked. And we'll just sort it ourselves. Everything comes into the factory, we sort it ourselves. And if it's not what we bought, we'll send it back and we won't pay for it. It's simple as that.
So the Plasencias, they give you an area of the factory to keep all of your tobacco.
Yeah, we have a storage area in the factory. They do all of our processing. Anything that we buy, they process for us. We have a room down there that's, I don't think it's that big, but you'd be surprised how many hundreds of pounds and thousands of pounds of tobacco you can put in small rooms.
Oh, put in a room, and then just trying to keep that inventory, making sure that it's always there. That's got to be. So we know that tobacco is always ours. So what we've done over the last 3 or 4 years, specifically as we were growing our company, was securing large amounts of tobacco for us. Obviously not Plasencia large, because if you've ever been in any, NFL football stadium, that would be about the amount of tobacco they have. We have what you would call a Division III stadium, which it's a great analogy. Yeah, I could see that, but yeah, at least you've developed those relationships where you can continue to get that tobacco, because we hear that a lot with a smaller company, especially when they're first starting off. It's like, "Oh, we're getting all this tobacco," and then it's gone. Can't get it anymore. So
and that's where, when we first started, I remember our first order was 50,000 cigars. And now if I was getting 50,000 a month, I'd be pissed, because it's not enough. Like last year we sold, it was the first year we eclipsed the 1 million cigar mark, so
wow,
we need 100,000 cigars a month minimum, and I have a warehouse that holds another 1.5 million cigars. And like, I want that to be as full as possible, because we know you can't sell from an empty cart. So, like, we are rolling stuff as we do. And I looked at our inventory that's coming in this month, and I'm not always pumped when it's less than 100,000 a month, and some months it's 150, 60,000, some months it's 80, 90,000. And it's just on that cycle of, if we want to grow to a 2, 3, 4 million cigar company, we have to be getting in more and more every month. And I have to build a bigger warehouse, and I have to, have Jeff and I figure out how we're going to do it and make some more cigars. And, thankfully we've got a new blend coming out, which is the first new blend we've had in a while. Even though we've gone through repackaging, new sizes, a bunch of new stuff. And that's actually the one I've been kind of nibbling on here, which is going to be smokable for only me later. But it's coming to market really soon. I hope to have it on shelves before PCA, which it will be, because we announced it last PCA. So we're always first to rush stuff out a year later.
Let's go back a minute here and talk about your rebranding. So a few years ago, I was on a show with a friend of yours, and I won't say whose show it was, and
I got a lot of friends. Is this a friend of ours or a friend of mine?
Friend of yours personally has a show, and then I was on with other members of the media, and they were talking about cigar brands, like who's hot, who's not, kind of what it is.
If this was a guy from Denver,
I don't know who you're talking about. And the last question was Crux Cigars, and I think I said, Crux still makes cigars, and I said I hadn't.
And when was this? When was this?
I looked up after
yesterday?
The show. No. This is yesterday. This is several years ago. So I looked up after the show, and then I that's when I thought you guys were going through your rebranding, because I didn't recognize like the new. And I'm like, is this the same Crux? Because the bands were different. And then reading you guys were going through a rebranding at the time. And
so
now
this was probably 2018, end of 18, beginning of 19.
It was right around there, 19. Yeah. So why who brought up the rebrand? Was it the consumers? Was it the brick and mortars? Was it just you guys internally? Like,
well, as I was traveling a bunch, people would always say like, cool logo, what's it say? So marketing 101, we failed. I agree. Meaning it was a cool logo. Everyone said we should make t-shirts. Like we could be Ed Hardy and we could sell t-shirts. I was like, I don't want to sell t-shirts. I want to sell cigars. They're like, well, what's your brand? I was like, you can read this very, very, very easily. I don't know if you realize that this is about as basic as it gets. We have this little highlight here that makes it unique. But it was always like, cool brand, what's it say? What is that? The logos didn't match. The branding on the packaging wasn't consistent. The boxes were totally different. Like we just were, kind of playing it by ear, trying to figure it out as we went. And I'll never forget Trade Show 17, I think it was. We've got a 20-foot backdrop. We got a 20-foot wall. It's 8 feet high. It's all lit up. And the whole word, 20 feet of the word Crux, our old logo. And I see this guy off in the distance, a couple rows down, kind of looking. I'm like, ooh, hey. He's kind of inching closer. He's inching closer. And it takes him like 3 or 4 minutes to like walk up to me, like older guy with a cane. So give him credit. But like he's inching up and inching up and inching. And finally I start, walking towards him, and I get into the middle of the hallway at the trade show, and I go, "Hey, sir, what brought you over today?" He goes, "I was trying to figure out what that sign said." You got a 20-foot sign of our logo, and he can't figure it out. Don't give me. And that was the time where we hired a company to say, tell us where we're failing, because we are currently a regional cigar brand, and at the time we were probably in 200 and some doors, selling to sporadic places around the country, but predominantly certain regions, and we were doing well for a small company, or basically a 3-person company. But that wasn't the vision. The vision was bigger than that. The vision wasn't me traveling on the road, Jeff flying to Nicaragua, me selling cigars and then flying home Friday to pack them Saturday, Sunday, and ship them Monday, and then fly out Tuesday. That was never the dream. The dream wasn't work like a dog forever. The dream was, let's try to make a brand. Let's try to have, staying power and look at things in decades. And we always wanted to, think long term. So when we got to the 5-year mark, it was a great time to, do that analysis of what are we failing at? And like we talked about earlier, failing's okay because we figured out how to not fail, or we learned from our experiences. And we hired a company that said, nobody can read your logo. We did analysis of like, everyone's like, they can't even recognize it. They do those things where they do a bunch of slides and then they'd be like, oh, what do you remember about this logo? Never seen it. Well, you had just seen it 30 seconds ago in slides, but it's not memorable. Colors, it was boring. They were dull, they were muted. And so it came down to literally we hired a marketing company to help us. And we're not marketers. Like we told, I don't have a lot of skills. So we had to hire people to do all these things. And Jeff, as a serial entrepreneur, I mean, he's been very, very successful in a lot of businesses, was the vision of saying, we need to move forward. And if that means the hard conversations of the money to put into, developing the brand, because it was always about brand. It was never about cigars. Meaning when you make the decisions, hey, this cigar isn't very good. It's plugged. It doesn't taste good. The burn ratio is bad. Off the chopping block. But we've got them and they weren't great. And I remember making decisions early on, like, I don't need those 20,000 cigars, even though that would be $100,000 in sales, but they weren't good cigars. Like we were making shit that sucked to the point where the quality control was so poor early on when we were going through some developing stages. We tried to use a marblehead finish more often. That was the biggest issue for us, was they had this cap that looks like a Cuban 109, kind of a hacked off torpedo. And we were draw testing it, and it was draw testing loose. So they added more tobacco, but if it doesn't butt up against it completely, of course there's going to be air channels because it had a torpedo. So we packed them full of tobacco. And then I'm like, these don't burn. These are plugged. These are shit. These are garbage. And we had to do a recall on that cigar in 2015, which at the time I had 20 retailers or something. Like it was like, let's call it 12 cigars. I mean, realistically, but like we learned from mistakes early on, and then we had some business partners and then some, great friends that took us under the wing. So you learn about these mistakes. And then I think 5-year mark, we were still around with all the failures that we have done. We were still selling cigars. We had sold more and more cigars every year we were in business. So it just got to the point where like, maybe we didn't screw this up yet. So this could be a company. This could be a brand for decades, for generations. So let's reevaluate it now and retool to the brand that we think can be successful for long term. And that's where our words were clean, iconic, timeless. And we hired a marketing company to do everything that we failed on for the first 5 years.
Yeah, because we actually have a picture here. Let's see. Do I have a picture of the?
It's a cool shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we have your, the one didn't come out, but yeah, so we have the old, and I knew the Crux brand. I knew of the brand. I would see one every now and then, and I would have to do a double take and be like, what does that say? And then you look at it for a second, you're like, oh, it's Crux. I mean, it is cool, but as cool as Old English, tattoos have
Is that the font? Is that what it's called?
It's I believe that's Old English. So
I would have to ask our designers because I wouldn't have known.
Yeah,
something every day about
a style of I being a tattoo guy, I kind of know my fonts a little bit, but yeah, it's a little Old English there. Yeah, definitely tough to see, but I love. Well, I'll show it again. Love the new stuff. I mean, it's your name. You can read it. It looks classy. It looks like the grown up version.
The difference in our packaging, I'm going to reach back. I actually have a box here. So don't judge this box by the size, because apparently I only had one box in my entire house. And it was being used for like my girlfriend's like trash and trinkets, like by her like nightstand. So I grabbed cigars to put in it because I thought I had a display box, but apparently 35 minutes away, was not going to drive to get it. And then you have uniquely different boxes, meaning, we've got some unique stuff with our packaging.
I'm gonna throw a picture up. So
there you go. That's way better than my display. Look at you. You're like an official.
So yeah, I was asking Kerr about this before the show. I didn't understand. I've never seen one of your boxes in person like that box. So I didn't see. So you have that cardboard.
Well, the only thing I'll show you differently is every one of our boxes is also made. There's not enough over here, and this is the wrong size box for the cigars I put in it. Yeah. I smoke Robustos, and this was a Toro. But every one of our boxes is made, to hold 40 cigars. And I don't know why I keep putting this back. But
that box right there holds 40 cigars.
Correct. Well, everything comes in 20 counts for us, but because we talk about marketing and dimension, show that picture again. You got it?
Yeah.
So let's start with yours, and then I'll develop that. So you have 10 singles on the right, 2 5-packs on the left. That's how it comes. You have the flavor profiles as well as the icon meters, as well as the 4 points of recognition. 4 points of recognition on all of our boxes are the Crux logo, which is now legible. You have the brand, which is in this case the Epicure. You have the icon, which in this case it's a Pegasus, which is awesome. But then you have the color, more importantly, recognizable. You have very distinct colors for every one of our brands. So all of our boxes look exactly like that. And then they match the colors on the band. So like the Bull and Bear's got that bright blue with the Bull and Bear yin yang icon, and you're smoking the Epicure Maduro, which got that Tiffany bluish color, and the Pegasus as well. Which is trademark pending, Tiffany blue-ish. So if anybody's asking,
yeah,
trademark pending.
I was legitly gonna say, I'm like, oh, what color blue is that?
Tiffany blue-ish. It's the most elegant color in all of colors. Ask any woman.
Yes.
So you have that, and then on our boxes, so you have they come there, and all of our packaging, not all of our packaging, all of our refill bricks are made out of recycled cardboard. So it definitely has a green initiative to the fact that, like, with the deforestation problem in Nicaragua, we make a really nice display box, dress box here. It's very, very beefy, but we want these to stay on shelves. We do that not to throw away, not to put literally like I have at my house, this one. After 9 years, I think I deserve one as a trash and trinkets box. But this is a box that, when we have a middle divider here and you have all these packaging, but all of the boxes are designed where you can then take, let me do this. The singles you have singles here, you have your 2 5-packs would be here, but then it's the dimensional marketing, 3-dimensional marketing, which allows you to take this refill brick is how we sell most of our products to our retailers because of the recycled cardboard issue, as well as weight and difference in shipping, but then they all will hold in a flat shelf here. So now you have single 5-pack for sale, as well as your box buyer pulls this out of the back, and it holds up to 40 cigars in every one of our boxes. And we like that because as a retail standpoint, then you don't have extra backstock sitting around. It's all in the box. You don't have to get a ladder to go get it down. And you have self-service for the consumer, because not all humidors have retail associates that are in the humidor helping you at all times. So we wanted to try to make it self-serving, and that's why we have the icon meters as well as the flavor profiles and then the recognizable colors. So we try to make it idiot-proof for me, because then when I'm talking about it, I can tell you, like right now, the Mexican San Andreas Maduro that you're smoking is cocoa, molasses, and cedar flavor, medium plus body. Because I can look at the box, and I do that on purpose. Yes, I knew those words before. I've said it a million times, but everybody has a cheat sheet. All the retail associates have cheat sheets. All the owners have cheat sheets. The consumer gets a cheat sheet. If they're looking for information, they can go, oh, I like cocoa, molasses, cedar, medium plus bodied cigar, very clean finishing. And what we mean by that is everything we do is aged at least 4 years from the time it's grown. So by the time it gets to the consumers, it's at least 5 years. But we go the low and slow method, where low temperatures, long periods of time aging in tobacco, so you don't get the palate trauma, which is that ammonia feeling on the backsides of your mouth, or that harshness on your tongue. So we're never going to have anything super strong. I shouldn't say never, but predominantly our goal is medium bodied, full flavored, clean finishing. That's the Crux consumer for us, is the largest aspect of the market. clean finishing tobacco, so you can smoke one after another. You can buy them. We want to be economically priced. That's why we use different reasons, like the packaging to keep price costs down. But our goal is full flavored, clean finishing, ammonia-free tobacco that allows you to smoke. I mean, how many cigars do you smoke a day? 40, 45?
At least 3.
Yeah. So you're on the average for the cigar guy. We got guys that smoke 6-7 cigars a day, and I don't know how they taste anything. And they say, "Oh, I can get flavor notes." I'm like, "No, you can't. You smoke 7 cigars a day. You don't have a flavor note in your profile anymore."
I hurt my knee, and I was home for 9 months, and I was up to maybe 8-9 a day on most days, and past 6, I was just smoking out of habit. Sitting with a knee brace on, sitting in front of my computer. Just
space them out better, Kevin. I smoke about 6 or 7 a day. You got to space them out.
What time do you start? 6 a.m.?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great thing. One of my favorite cigars of the day is that before the sunrise coming up, you're out there half the cigars before the sun rises. You sit there on the balcony. Cup of coffee or scotch, whoever you are, whatever.
not judging. I
mean, if you're at home, why can't you have scotch in the morning?
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, he also works from home, so I don't. He does. He does videos. So yeah.
Yeah. If I had working from home, if I started scotch at 6 in the morning, I think by noon.
No, you don't have to start. You just have one. You can have one.
Yeah, you just have one. Yeah, that's it. I love the fact that you're cognizant of the impact that you're having on the planet. I've had this talk privately with so many manufacturers. I'm gonna call out Mickey Pegg right now from All Saints Cigars. I was sitting down chatting with Mickey when I was at Smokin for the Great Smoke, and we're just chatting, and I go, he gave me one of his new cigars. I saw the box, and I'm like, aren't you going to be glad when boxes are finally done and we can get rid of these things in the industry? And he goes, why would you say that? And he goes, no, boxes are great. And I'm like, we're literally clear cutting forest, to produce these boxes. And eventually it has to go away.
Yeah, we're actually in the concept, still in the concept. And the reason why this Habano is taking longer is because we originally had the concept of a 100% recycled cardboard box. Yeah. And we're using a factory out of Costa Rica to do it. And it has run into a few issues. We've gone through, I'm going to make up a number, 7,862 revisions to get it correct. It's probably 10 or 12. I don't know. But it's just not good enough for the shelf. We still want to be, meticulous of what we're putting on the shelf. We still want to be cognitive of it has to have, I want it to look exactly the same as our wood box or as close as we can with recycled cardboard. So the original concept of the Epicure Habano, which is coming out shortly, is 100% recycled cardboard packaging. Everything about it will be, premium tobacco and recycled cardboard. But it's run into a few snags. So, and I have to get this cigar to market. So we'll do a original standard box that we've done to get it on the shelf as we continue to develop this project, which we will get out. And the goal is to eventually move it to all of our projects once we perfect, because we're using a new factory who's never done this type of box. They've never used this type of material, have to make it as thick so it does withhold time. Cost has to be down, so we have to order X amount, hundreds of thousands of them, so we can get to the point where it does make it economical and then logistical for the fact that we can have packaging folded, shipped, packed, versus the Green Initiative, where the Green Initiative of the fact of helping the deforestation, as well as Green Initiative for our retailers, for our consumers. I mean, if we can make cigars for cheaper, meaning packaging included, we don't have to raise prices. We can have, more economical cigars. And our goal is to find the best cigar we can with the biggest margins for everybody to succeed in, because we have to pass on those margins to our retailers. So we want to keep, economical cigars. I mean, now they're $11 to $13 is kind of that sweet spot of that price. I remember when we started, it used to be $9 to $10, and now it's gone up over the few years. But so
so I have said, and I'm not wrong often, and I'm going to say I'm wrong because I have said it. I think I've said it on this show. I've said it privately that it's going to take one of the big guys to finally make that commitment to where everybody changes the way we do packaging. And I think I'm wrong. I think it's going to take one of the smaller guys, I hope it's you. I hope it's, everybody else sees the packaging. They're like, you know what? We've got one company dedicated to changing the industry. We're going to follow suit. So maybe it's not going to be one of the big guys. Maybe it's going to be one of the
I think people have noticed our packaging because we have been very, very vocal about the recycled cardboard in the box, which is the majority of, like, when we first came out with it, we're like, yeah, we need display boxes, so we'll make them. But, we do these refill bricks. Literally, I mean, there's nothing wrong. This isn't a bulk cigar. This isn't anything that's not viable. Like, it doesn't feel like it should be on the bottom shelf. It's quality recycled cardboard and it looks good. Like, you can buy, this is 20 cigars. This is what most of our consumers buy, 20 cigars. It looks that way. But to get to that versus when you have just a cellophane bulk packaging that looks like it should be on the bottom shelf for a $3 stick, like, there's no value in that to the consumer eye. Like, if this cigar is just in cellophane on the bottom shelf, it could be a $2 cigar or I don't know what, maybe $5, $6, whatever they cost now. But like, you have to, tobacco is expensive. The best tobacco in the world is expensive. And then you have to value that so we can stay in business. We have to make a margin. We have to pass that margin on to our retailers. And then the retailers wants to get it to as inexpensive to the consumer as possible, because we want you to smoke as many of them as possible. We all have it's a disposable product that is a luxury item that we want you to be able to consume as many as you choose to. And if it's a budget thing, then, they will just, go to a smaller tier or a lower tier in price point. But realistically, if you can smoke 3 cigars a day and you have a $20 budget, you're spending $60 a day. If your budget's 3 cigars a day and $20, you can still hit that budget somewhere in cigars. You can go find $6 cigars, but if you smoke 1 cigar and have a $20 budget, we want to be there as well. So, but finding the best tobacco that we can source from the best farms, using the best factories, and then blending to a consumer that is going to be in the similar portfolio that we use, of, like I said, medium, full flavor, clean finishing. That's obviously, we range a little bit. Obviously, everything's not medium. We have the mild plus and the epicure to the medium plus and some of the other, like the Bull and Bear, a lot of sweetness, a lot of Ligero in that cigar. But you have to develop what you're looking for in the packaging, because it has to sell, because that's the marketing aspect. Sitting on a shelf in these enormous humidors across the country, if you don't stand out, you could have the best cigar in the world for the cheapest price, and you have a bad box or a bad packaging, it will not sell.
Yeah, Kerr, you've been smoking longer than Casey and I. I'm not saying you're old, but you've just been smoking longer.
How long have you been smoking, Kerr?
It's been a while. It's been on and off since
the 90s,
since early 90s. Thanks, Jess.
But Kerr, and then you've had the luxury, in your travels, the Stogie Road travels, when you were on the road all the time, of visiting all of these shops, and you used to do reviews. And I've seen it on shops. Like I said, back in the day, for me, a couple of years ago, cellophane and bundles, those were always the ones that were either on the bottom or they're on the top. They were packed away. Nobody cared about them. But, I'm sure you've seen to where those butcher papers.
Even butcher papers, that's hot. Even seeing trays, sometimes people still associate, because you try, and like you said, Casey, if you're going to say, okay, I have 200, stores that carry my brand. If I just got to make 200 trays, boxes, and I'll just fill them in with cigars, that still sometimes gets associated with a lesser brand or a cheaper brand in these shops. I guess I'm curious because, I love the cardboard box concept, and what part of the art of making a cardboard box has been lost? Because I remember the old school, the Phillies boxes, all of the older cigar boxes were all cardboard.
That's well before it came to with people with money. I'm assuming that had marketing, it was outdoing each other. it's kind of gotten into the fact that if you can outdo the neighbor, you can have a cooler Christmas decoration,
right.
You have to market more, bigger, better, beautiful. But realistically, it comes to functionality. And you want functional boxes, you want recognizable boxes, you want cost-effective boxes. And the fact is, if they don't stand out, they won't be seen in. If you go into humidors, I mean, sometimes there's 4, 5, 6, 700 SKUs or more.
It
800,
can be
900.
daunting and overwhelming.
It's and it's usually a sea of brown, and that's why we didn't go with brown colors. That's why we went with consistent boxes. So if you're smoking Crux, you're smoking Crux. Yeah, it's a different color, but everything is consistent. The box, they all look the same, other than the color, the main color. The band matches that color, so you can go, oh, what'd you smoke? Oh, I smoked the Crux yellow. Well, that means I can go, I know what cigar that is. Yeah, Kevin's gonna know what cigar that is when he goes. I smoke yellow because I'm gonna walk back into the retailer. I'm gonna go, I smoked the Crux yellow, and there it is. And this is the old Havana yellow that we're using on this one.
Yeah, I started off Camacho Criollo yellow. It's the yellow.
Exactly.
I don't know what blend the orange is. I don't like the orange. I never liked it. I couldn't tell
Crux
you.
or Camacho?
A Camacho. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what it was. I didn't like the orange. I liked the yellow. So I love the color coding.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you find the cigar the second time. Yeah. As long as you're buying the same cigar that you bought the first time, and it's consistent. That's where the quality control, that's where all the hours and years of trips and factory visits and all the due diligence that we've done to, literally try to make, the failure rate less than 1% of, like when you smoke Crux, we want you to have the same experience. So you're going to go get it. You're going to get the same experience. We have very, very tight wheels when we come to color matching. Like we'll put 25 cigars on a table that they get cellophaned and wrapped, and they put there, and then every time they're matching that wrapper, if it's not inside the wrapper, it gets kicked out, which is my new brand that I've never sold, which is called Casey Cigars, which is called, it's called Rejected Cigars. I changed the word from rejected to Casey because they don't want rejected cigars in factories. But if I change them to Casey Cigars, they're just like, oh, these are Casey's and these are Crux. Yeah. And I'm like, just separate them into two piles. It's fine. And what we did is then we have these boards that literally, if you look at the whole board, they all look the same. But if you take 1 and 25 and you put them together, there's slight differences, which you have to have some differentiation in tobacco. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow as a tobacco company or a manufacturing company. So we look at it like, if we can keep our consistency is the keyest word. Keyest? Is that word?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It is today.
The keyest word in everything, because consistency is all that matters. Quality is important. Yes, we want the highest quality we can achieve. But if we come out with a cigar and you like that cigar, you want to smoke that cigar the same thing every time.
Yep.
It's like buying scotches or bourbons. Like I know when I go buy a Glenfiddich 18, it's going to taste like Glenfiddich 18 every time. And wine is different. Wine changes from year to year. If I go buy this 2019 or 2016 or 2018, but we want you to pick up that cigar and have the same experience you had time in and time again. That's why consistency is the keyest. I like this. I'm going to use this word all the time now. The keyest word that we look for. Obviously, consistency, quality are very, very, very important. But they have to be like, if you're buying a $5 cigar, you consistently still want it to be that same $5 cigar. You know what you're paying for. You just want to get what you're buying. And that's what we want to give you.
Well, you need that too when you have a new, when you're newer in a humidor, people are going to go in there. And if you don't have that consistency, that could torpedo you immediately.
Oh, for sure. Because like 100%. Jeff, I steal this from him. He always said first impressions are eternal.
Yep.
Like if you smoke, I think one of the best cigars in the world is the Padron 1960 for Anniversario Maduro. I don't think anybody can argue with me. I think it's one of the best cigars in the world.
Kevin can.
That cigar makes me, too strong. Too strong.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the best cigars in the world. I think it's one of the best cigars in the world. However, have I had bad ones? Yes. Have I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ones that I think are perfect? Yes. If I go smoke that cigar and I get a bad one, I'm going to tip my hat and say, Padron, you've got a bunch on your, you got a bunch of clout. I'm going to smoke it again. I'm going to go buy another box. Yes. If you smoke Crux for the first time and it sucks, you're not going to buy it again.
Right. Yep.
So you have to be due diligent to quality control early on and not let things get to market that are not good, because we have a uniquely different idea of, the medium bodied, full flavored, clean finishing. And that's what we're looking for. So if we find cigars that are likable by the masses, that's great. But we still, when we develop them, we want them to be specific to that blend and that type. So not everything is for everybody. We don't have very, very mild cigars, and we don't have very, 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 very strong ass-kicking cigars. But there's a small segment of the market that other people are doing way better than we'll ever do. You know, like there's certain companies that do very mild cigars incredibly well. There's certain companies that do really, really, really strong ass-kicking really well. That's just not our target market. So we try to stay in our own lane. We try to find the companies, the tobacco and the consumer that is going to be in that larger market, that we can find blends that we can introduce to them that are uniquely different, because we source tobaccos from all over and then bring them into certain factories. And like yours, Kerr, specifically example, that's an all Plasencia tobacco, the Bull and Bear, all 4 regions of Nicaraguan tobacco. It's a true Nicaraguan Puro, usually uniquely tobacco from the Jalapa region, that's going to have natural little sweetness to it, but a lot of Ligero in the filler. So you're going to get some extra spice to it, you know. And then you're smoking the Mexican San Andreas that we roll at, or you were, maybe you guys finished them already. I'm still holding the same cigar because I don't get the privilege to smoke right now. To your Maduro is rolled at AJ Fernandez factory, but it's Torrent family wrapper, which is Mexican San Andreas, which is in our opinion, the best growers of all Mexican San Andreas in all of Mexico. Like, it's fantastic wrapper. It's the Negra version. It's exquisite. And then, you know, this is a Seiko wrap cigar that we have here. Then we've got the Epicure Connecticut, which is the red. Hold on, I've got a humidor here. See if there's any cigars in it. Let's start here. You got the Guild, which is Ecuadorian Habano, Nicaraguan filler binder, uniquely different. Then we've got the Connoisseur, which is a Lancero series. This happens to be a Corona. Selfishly, we made a Corona because Coronas are delicious. But it's a Jalapa Habano Indonesian binder, Yamastron and Estela Ligero fillers. And then I'm looking for a red one, if I have any left.
Yamastron. So that's pronounced with a Y?
I don't know. That's what I say.
Oh, I've been pronouncing it with an H.
H, it's J.
Like Hamastron. But yeah, with A, you're making fun of me, H, and it's a J. You pronounce it as a Y.
I'm pretty sure it's Yamastron.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been
about
there.
me goes, you
I'm turning around.
It's a J.
I'm looking for a cigar. Oh, there's one. I still got one left.
You didn't say Jamastron, Kev, so you're safe.
So this is the Ecuadorian Connecticut Nicaraguan filler binder, which we get that obviously from a small farm in Ecuador. But then it's Condega filler, Esteli Ligero, and Nicaraguan binder. And then, Limitada, last one in my hand, which is an Esteli Shade, broadleaf binder, Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. So as you can see, none of those blends are reminiscent of each other. And we do that on purpose. And I ran through that really fast because nobody really cares about what specifically is in them. And if you want to listen, hit pause, go back, play it. But it's so different. Every one of them is uniquely different. I love them all because they all sell and they're all still on the line. However, there's definitely a least favorite child in my mouth, you know, as there should be in your mouth. Like, I like them all differently. But I find a reason why they pair what they do. But we're trying to adapt to that medium, full flavored, clean finishing smoker and find the cigars with a bunch of different variations of blends. So that's always the goal. So we're working on a lot of new stuff. We're working with some Cameroon, some more broadleaf stuff, but you know, until it's perfect for Crux, Jeff and I have decided that we're never going to come to market with anything that we think is not worthy of a Crux band, because like you said, first impressions are eternal, and building a brand takes decades versus worrying about the cigar sales today. We have to worry about the quality of the brand every time you smoke it.
That's it. Let's talk about a couple of your sizes. You had the Guild up there. You have that comes in a Toro Extra PBMH on your website. What is that?
That was an old one. That's still on there. Ooh, better talk to my website designer. So that was a cigar that was old branded only, and then it was probably kept there because it was event only.
Okay.
So the Toro Extra Box Press Marblehead. Longest cigar name ever. Okay,
so it was box press, so it should have been BP, not PB.
They say PB.
It says PB.
Are you positive?
I am positive that it says PB
On my website currently, as we speak right now?
Currently, as we speak right now. Carry in front of your computer, go to Crux Cigar, look up Guild.
Somebody's getting fired tomorrow. Is tomorrow a weekday?
Yeah. It's a Tuesday. It's a great day.
Fire people. Can we fire people on Tuesdays?
Yeah,
sure can.
I don't know. That might,
especially when you work from home, you can fire them any day.
Well, you're in Florida. You're in a right to work state. You can fire.
No, but I'm saying usually you try to fire them on Fridays. You know.
Yeah. Which one are we looking up, Kev?
The under the Guild. So it'll be Toro Extra.
Look it up. If we're wrong, I like we said, I had trouble with the lights.
Yeah.
It says BP.
PB.
B as in boy, P as in Paul, or B as in box, P as in press.
Okay, I must have copied and pasted wrong. But you don't even have that size anymore, so it doesn't make any difference.
No, it's still event. It's still event only.
Okay.
There's an event only cigar that it might be phasing out because I'm not making it anymore. But that's a unique size, one of my favorite sizes. But so cool size.
Someone fired on
economically,
Tuesday,
when you look,
when
you look at business logistics of making that cigar. Just made it too expensive to box press it, marblehead it, versus the straight round Toro, which strategically a lot less money and allows us to sell more of them at a more economical price. And then the consumer is going to look at, for example, these are two different size cigars, but if they were the same price, you're going to buy this one.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
The Toro box press extra, Guild, Toro, extra box press marblehead was the same size as this because this is 6 by 50. That was 6 1/4 by 52, which box pressed it looks the same, and it was a 1/4 inch longer. Or is it a 6? Yeah, I think it was a 1/4 inch longer. It looks the same size, so when you put them next to each other, people will be like, "Well, it's the same size for $1 less, $1.25 less," because of manufacturing costs. It takes more time and effort to box press to marblehead it. Which is a Cuban 109 and marblehead. We made that term up, by the way. It's trademark though. So
now, Casey, I think Kevin, it was under the Limitada. It says Gunner Redline the show PBS short.
PB5.
PB5.
That's a 5.
Yeah.
Glasses.
Okay, so, but that it says PB. Is that box press?
That says PB. That is PB though.
Okay.
That doesn't stand for box press though. That actually stands for peanut butter.
I was going to say, I was wondering, you were talking about peanut butter earlier. I thought you were going to tie it in. It stands
for peanut butter, which actually is a shout out to Skip Martin from Romacraft Tobacco because we call him Skip. We call him Skippy. He helped us on that blend, and he didn't want to take any credit for coming into the 5th hour and recommending a binder that we didn't have that we ended up using.
Okay, so what about the other sizes? Gunner, Redline, and the Show.
So the Gunner and the Redline were one limited releases and done. We did a Corona and a Toro. Those were done in 2018. So they're still on there. So people, they're probably somewhere. They're archived. I do use the Gunner for that's one of my favorite cigars as one of my exclusives when I go to an event. I always bring Gunners because it's a Corona Gorda Limitada. Why would you not want it?
Yeah.
And then the Show, we originally started in 2015. It was originally called the IPCPR, but then they decided to change the name without telling everybody what it was. So we couldn't call it the Crux Limitada PCA because they wouldn't tell us what the name of the new show was going to be. They wanted to keep it secret. So back in the day, we go back to baseball. For me, the Show was the big leagues. Everyone says the game, the show. So obviously we also call it the trade show. So when we had to change the name, it was the cigar that we would always bring out and give away for free to retailers that attended and put in qualifying orders. And now it's become regular production. But it was a unique limited edition cigar we did for people that attended the trade show. And that's why it got and we just never changed the name because that 5 by 52 box press marblehead was a trade show exclusive until trade show exclusive became relevant, and then we came up with a different one because we've been using it as giveaways.
Someone wants to know: Do you still make the Skeeter?
I don't. Manufacturing cost to make that long filler hand roll burrito, which is actually really good. We still have plenty of them. I probably have a couple, 10, 20,000 of them somewhere. I know they're purchasable sometime somewhere. I'd have to do research where, but I don't make them anymore. Jeff and I made the decision to not make them because we wanted to keep them at a price point of $2.99, no more than $3.49. And when the manufacturing cost exceeded that, it just becomes not sellable. It was a 4x32. So we came out with that in 2014. It's just gone to those little tiny cigars. They're just, if you're not a farmer and a factory owner, your costs are too high.
Yeah.
And if you're a farmer and a factory owner, you have tobacco that you have to use. And then you say, well, we need to get rid of this tobacco. We'll use it. But when I pick the blend and I pick the thing and I pick everything I want and I say, I want your best tobacco and I want this stuff. And they're like, well, that's not what that's meant for. We want to usually use, the stuff that we don't know where to go with it. And we're going to roll it into these little burritos. Well, we still wanted to make that premium cigar in a small format because central Minnesota is notorious for being really cold.
Is it? I didn't know.
Yeah, it's the coldest state in the country by far. There is more below 0 days in Minnesota than the rest of the country combined. True story. Look it up.
Wow.
But you wanted that winter cigar. So we wanted something that was good. And we called it a 22-minute cigar. But we wanted premium tobacco. We didn't want short filler. We didn't want machine rolled. But it unfortunately just became too expensive to produce. And we still need to run a business. And when you have to produce it for $2 and sell it for, $2 and to your retailer, they have to sell it for $4. Nobody makes any money, because nobody's selling it. So it has to be that $3.50 max for that size. So we're working on some projects to get something equivalent or just a little bit bigger in the manufacturing process because we'll continue to work on projects. But it's unique. I should smoke those tomorrow and post it so you can see it. There's some somewhere.
Now, someone had asked me, and this is one question I was going to ask you. Any thoughts of ever bringing back some of the old, the old brands, Nymphomaniac, into the,
So Nympha is an old Cuban shaped 7x33. People just think we used a play on words, which was true, but Ninfa, Ninfa, is an old Cuban brand. So tying our history of our company into some Cuban heritage because, we're German Norwegian from Minnesota. Like we wanted to tie in some Cuban history into the way we designed our company because, we wanted to pay respect. And so we tied in the Marblehead, it was the old 109. We had the Epicure, which is, the brand that we have in our trio or trifecta or whatever 3-word you want to use, which the Connecticut, the Maduro Habano. And then the Nympha 7x33 is just an old Cuban shape. And it's literally, we added a double perfecto called it a Nymphomaniac. That one has had talks. I've tried to negotiate and neglect all of those talks because it's a really, really difficult cigar to make. It's probably the hardest cigar in any factory to roll because of 7x33 and a double perfecto. The consistency of it's very difficult. We have one pair that rolled it, and we lost one of those guys years ago. It wasn't why we stopped it because there was 3 of them that rolled that bunch and manufacturer, but the difference was to train and do that cigar perfectly is hard. And then the cost to do it. And that cigar was an inexpensive cigar at the time. When we first came out, I mean, that cigar would have to be, rebranded and redone at, $10, $11, $12, somewhere in there. And it's just the tobacco thought where somebody looks for, time per cigar. You're going to look, it's a 45-minute cigar.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to make. So it would still be $10, $12 if we wanted to do it now.
That's tough. That's tough to make it.
It's just a bad. It's just a bad. It's
for a 45-minute cigar. I mean, $10, $12.
Yeah.
I mean, you want.
But I mean, can it be done? Yes. Do we have new graphics design? Do we have new colors picked out? Yes. We also picked those out 3 years ago, so I don't think we just did this. Don't think we're moving forward on it.
Yeah.
But there is talks about the Nymphomaniac. Some of the other ones, like the Classic, will never come back. Just like we said, we ran out of tobacco. We all kicked our coverage on that one. Sold too many of them too fast. Couldn't get the tobacco to taste the same with new crops. So we just discontinued it because we don't want that inconsistency, like we talked about earlier.
Kudos to you for that, because I would say 90% of the cigar industry would have just reblended it, called it the same thing, and then that was it. Just called it a day.
Yeah, but people are smarter than that. I mean, I feel like if I smoked that cigar day in and day out, that was my go-to, and all of a sudden it was different, I'd be pissed.
Yeah. Same here.
We killed it. We just discontinued it. So that one's gone. The sports, that was more of a manufacturing thing. Price point wise, that's an old Cuban shape as well, 4 5/8 by 35, which is an old Cuban size. I love that cigar. But the blend was hard to keep consistent because it was a really intrinsic blend for a small ring gauge. So it was missed some points of the process of making sure it was consistent enough. I would like to come back with another sports version someday, 100 years from now, when we're back to small ring gauge stuff, that has a more, I don't want to call it, I don't think basic is a bad word, but I want to say more consistent blend that we can control in small, because it's really hard to change the fillers in 35 ring gauge cigars. So when you're smoking 35s and 40s and 52s and 60s, it's easy to, bunch them, which is one of the processes of when you roll a cigar. Not to say I think everybody doesn't know, but obviously you have the buncher and the roller. And when the buncher is putting the blend together in their hand, it's obviously easier with larger ring gauge cigars versus, tweezers and minimalistic tobaccos you put in, and because one little leaf in a really small ring gauge cigar can make it taste totally different. So you want to be a little bit more simple. That's a better word. And I'd like to do it another day. But as we rebrand it costs money to rebrand. It costs money to come up with new projects. Packaging becomes expensive, especially the way we do it, because you have to buy X amount to get to the price point when you're printing, especially on recycled cardboard. To get the price down so we can keep it down, so we can get our price points to our consumers at as cheap as we can.
Yeah, let's go back to the branding for a second. How long did the whole rebrand take from the time you hired the company?
How many hours?
How many months? Was it a couple of years? Was it a year?
Probably months? Closer to 18 months.
Okay.
Closer to 18 months. And I'm kind of flipping a quarter on that one, but we started with the brand logo because we knew the logo needed to change. And I remember looking at, we didn't use logos.com, just so you know. We didn't go type in Crux, logo.com, spit out 3 options. We'll pick that one. Kind of like Live Golf did. No offense to Live Golf, but that's what they did. That's a CW joke if anybody's listening. But I remember looking at thousands of renditions of a boring word, like you know what I mean? And then you'd circle them, and you'd look and you'd print them because you wanted to see them in print, and so we wasted paper there. So I apologize. Those weren't recycled cardboard, but I had to print them and circle them and go through and look, and then then you'd go, okay, I like this one, but give me 100 versions of this same one, with different fonts, with different sizes, with different things. And then I think Jeff and I had a conversation for an hour and a half about the same logo. It looked exactly the same. They were different. I couldn't tell you why they were different. They were different. And I remember driving, which is my favorite time to talk to people because I'm, multitasking, which is very hard for most of us to do, but looking at logos and driving and, going, oh, this one. And it took forever. I think that took us 3 to 4 months to come up with that. And then once we did that, then we went sub-branding, we went packaging, we went all the way down. And our goal was, if it's not amazing at the end, we're just going to use all this money as a social experiment and throw it away. but we weren't going to go to market with it. Because the packaging, I mean, hiring a marketing company, hiring designers, is very expensive. However, it's way more expensive to make it.
Oh yeah.
So we got to the
tens
point
of thousands of it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the amount of money is absurd. It pains me to think about it. But then you like wrap that all in. At the end, we're like, shit, this is really cool and it's exciting. And I wanted to put it on logos. I wanted to put it on shirts. And it's boring. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a put me on a shirt logo, but we were so proud of it. Like I know I wear it more. I put it on anything. I'm not offended to take it places because it doesn't look like this monstrosity of, Ed Hardy. And it's not like it's just a clean, elegant, professional logo that I'm proud to wear now. And we couldn't be more happy with the 180-degree turn that we did, well, I guess 5 years ago.
Now, what was the when you first released it at the I'm assuming the PCA or the IPCPR, like what was the initial from retailers, consumers, your peers in the industry?
I remember people coming up and being like, "Oh, I used to know this other brand called Crux." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" They're like, "Yeah, they had this cool logo that was really cool, but you couldn't really read it." And I go, "Yeah, that's us." And then there was a little bit of pushback because some people thought the old logo was really cool. But then you took 30 seconds and explained to them why we wanted to make it marketable. And I don't know if there's somebody out there that we had this conversation 5 years ago, 4 years ago, that we didn't convince you that this was the right play. I don't think it happened. Some people are like, "Oh, I like the old logo better." Then I'm like, "But give me 30 seconds to tell you why." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
And most people came up and they're like, "Holy shit. This is awesome." And obviously we spent money on a cool booth. We had this timeless thing. And as a friend of, I don't know if this is who the guy you were talking about earlier, the guy from Denver, but he owns a cigar blog, online platform, bunch of different stuff. And there's a YouTube video of, I thought him and I were friends. And we are again today. We've squashed that beef. We really didn't have beef. There was a whole bullshit play out thing. But he came up to me and said, "Hey, Casey, I just want to let you know I've hated your logo for 5 years. But now I love it." And I was like, "Thanks, asshole. Why didn't you tell us this shit 5 years ago? Could have saved us time and effort." But truly, I think it's opened so many doors. More retailers respect the fact that it's business focused. It's recognizable. Mm-hmm. It's going to help sell cigars. And it looks like it belongs in every humidor, from boutique companies to heritage brands. It just has that appeal that we see, the packaging, the way we've designed it with the 3 points of purchase, with recognizable, with the colors, the schemes, the things in the box. I mean, it's one of those things where we've seen some people that, have tried to replicate it and do some things, which is great for the industry. I mean, if taking the best things and moving them to everybody's company, as you say, what's the best form of flattery?
Imitation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're cool with that. Not to say we started the wheel, but there's other companies that have done it that we've, looked up upon, from McAllen to Davidoff to Camacho, like you mentioned earlier. Like, there's inspiration from everywhere. But when you put it together and people talk about it and people go, "Well, why are they doing this and we're not?" And it really turned their corner for us to get into a lot of those big retailers that have big humidors, that have heritage brands that we have to compete with. And not only say, "Oh, I'm a boutique cigar shop, so here's my boutique cigars." But no, we really want to be in the best premium retailers across the country. And a lot of them obviously carry, the heritage brands, because those are the largest selling companies in the world. So we want to be on that talking point. Yeah, we're never going to sell, shouldn't say never, but most likely we'll never sell 25, 30, 40, 50 million cigars because of the way we want to run our business. But we want to sell more and more and more cigars, but we want to look like and compete and have the quality of tobacco, the consistency, the marketing efforts. And outside of my personality, I mean, I think we're doing a lot of things well.
Yeah, I mean, the new branding. I mean, that is a cigar, that is a band that can go next to a Padron, that can go next to a Davidoff, and it looks like it's from, one of them Uber premium companies that have been around for 100 years that everybody knows about, so I love it. What was the, was it an immediate, like you saw numbers like right away, or was it like 6 months later?
So it was
9 months,
interesting because, which would have been 2019 was when it was at IPCPR, PCA. I don't remember what it was called that year. It was right around the transition time is when we announced it. And it was set to ship end of third quarter 2019, I believe. Packaging was being finished, getting pre-orders, getting boxes done, getting everything redone, doing a complete swap out. So what we did, because we wanted it to happen, I swapped out any product that people had on shelves. We had them send it back and we credited them and switched it out. I didn't want to, obviously we told them a couple months before, so I could try to sell some of that down, like, hey, we're going to be switching this out. But realistically, I wanted it to basically snap the fingers and now you have a new product on the shelf that's a new brand. And Jeff and I had talked all this time about, doing it properly and bringing it back. And, we don't want people to say, oh, I'll get the new stuff when the new packaging comes out. No, this is such a different packaging. We don't want it to be lingering. So literally I had people send it back. And they got credited dollar for dollar, retailers across the country. And we had pallets of it coming back. That was just, on regular shelves. And it got to market end of 19, like right before Thanksgiving-ish. And then COVID happened about 3 months in. I had just hired 2 direct sales guys. So it really didn't see the light of day in anybody's retail shops other than our current retail partners. And nobody was going into stores.
Yeah.
Because COVID happened. It was all, drive-by, or what do they call it? Cigars to go, or curbside delivery, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So nobody really saw the packaging for like a year. People did, yes, but it wasn't for about a year until the packaging played. Obviously, cigars were good, and we had hired sales team in the beginning of 20, right before COVID shut down. So I had help, and Jeff had help, and we had people to assist, and it was a lot of people hitting the phones in the road, and so we were generating more and more and more. And not only that, we had also added a shitload of inventory all of 19 with new packaging to release. So when we went from selling 300,000-400,000 cigars to now we're going to have 800,000-900,000 cigars on hand that first year, just in case. So we had stockpiled. So when COVID came and then the boom happened, we were in a good position where now people were running out of cigars. They needed more tobacco. They were looking for new brands because not everybody could keep up. And we had cigars. But then it was about a year until the rest of the, let's call it the country, was able to really see it on the shelf. Because, there was a couple months in the 250 retailers that we had in certain parts. But then from there, now we're in, I think, about 400. We've added over 200 retailers since then.
Wow.
And, we'll probably have a limit at some point. But we're very selective. But nobody was walking in seeing them. So until the consumer, they'd see a new band. Oh, okay, whatever. But they didn't see the whole downplay of the, the packaging, the inside the box, the cardboard. And so it took a minute, but we immediately saw new accounts wanting to open due to the ability of the marketing factor. We saw people reaching out, talking about our booth looked incredible. Our packaging is cool. We should be doing this. So it was a lot of accolades internally, let's call it industry-wise, from a lot of our friends throughout the industry that were just like, man, this, because it came out of nowhere. Nobody knew we were doing it. We didn't talk about it until we were ready to, show the world, slam it on the table, and we did that. And so it opened doors first. And then we've seen the residual income come from now the consumer has seen it for 4 years.
Well, I know what you've done with the box. It definitely makes a difference because I remember when your brand came into Boda Pipes. I was just mentioned where I picked up these cigars earlier. They have an exceptional crew there to begin with, but that was the first thing they were talking about was the display, and they're like, look, this is incredible. It gives you the flavor profile, medium heat, and the guys were really talking it up on how you can come in here, and this brand is newer on the shelves, but it could really guide you through picking out a cigar, even if you're not really sure what it is and what to expect. So they were really talking it up. So what you guys did with that was really fantastic.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Customers picking it out on their own, because like Casey said earlier, you don't always have someone in the humidor with you.
That's what they were talking about. That's exactly how they were selling it to me. And Kev, I've known these guys for years, and that's how they were talking to me about it and telling me about the brand. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I really want to light this cigar so bad right now, but I think I'd get in trouble.
Well, so that'll be we're last question here for me. What's next for Crux Cigar? You kind of teased that cigar. Can you tease us a little bit?
Oh, so the Habano has been announced. It's coming out. It's been
has
sampled.
it? Okay.
It's not on retailer shelves yet.
Okay.
No, yeah, this one should have been out earlier. You can blame me. 100% my fault. That it's not. I'm hoping to have it.
How many iterations of the colors we went through for that one?
I don't know. I'm not the designer. We have a palette wheel of the same family of all the same colors. So when they send you the colors, it's all matching in the wheel. I might be using the wrong lingo, but they say these are the colors you can use that match each other.
Oh, okay.
And they're smarter than me. So we look at tobacco on different wrappers. Like, how does this one look? Like this wrapper on this cigar would look, or the Maduro on this. Like, if I switch these two wrappers and bands, they would look terrible.
Yeah, like, you're right. Yeah,
green on Connecticut looks terrible because bad Connecticut wrapper turns green. It makes it look green. Versus green on dark Negra, Mexican San Andres Maduro, pops. Red pops. So you look at all of the different colors that they match. Obviously, a lot of it's medio brown, but if you look at all these different cigars, I mean, they're all very different colors. Yeah. I mean, there's some cellophane on there, so people are going to call me a liar, but if you really look at them, they're all completely different colors. If you look at the color wheel. So, but all the packaging matches. So the band iterations of this. For them, I don't know. For me, probably like X or Y, and Jeff and I said this and this, versus they probably went through a bunch that made sense that said, here's what we recommend, and we're like, you're smart.
Yeah, just do it. What is okay? I've one last one. I said that was the last one. What's your dad smoke the most of?
My dad doesn't smoke a lot of cigars.
Okay.
He's got a great cigar collection.
So does Kerr's dad. Yeah.
My dad will smoke. I bet you he smokes less than 5 cigars a year without me.
Wow.
But when he's with me, he will smoke cigars, and he loves them. He totally enjoys them. But I don't know. It just isn't something he goes home and does. So when he's with Jeff or I mean, he hangs out with Jeff too, because they both live in Minnesota. He probably sees him more than I do. But his favorite always goes back and forth. It's pretty much whatever I give him. But he is more of he really likes the Limitada is one of his favorites because it's more on our side, that more medium minus bodied cigar. And he smokes a lot of the Connecticut's because they're not as strong. He's a big Scotch guy, meaning he drinks my Scotch when he comes over.
That's another term you just used that I don't hear anybody else using. Medium minus. Like,
oh, really? People don't use that?
Kerr, have you ever heard that before?
Nope.
No, I love that term, medium minus, because that is sometimes a term that I am looking for when I'm talking about a medium cigar. And it's like,
it's not medium. It's not quite medium, so it'd be minus.
Yeah, medium minus. It's like
have you ever said medium plus?
Yeah, I've said medium plus 1,000 times. I've never said medium
minus.
So
if you wanted less than medium, how do you not immediately go to medium minus?
I've never personally said that ever. I've never heard anybody else say that. So
Really?
that you trademark that shit right
I
away.
kind of live in my own world sometimes.
Yeah. So I love that though. That is a term.
But let's real quick though.
Yeah.
Medium plus thousands of times.
Thousands of times.
You needed something less than medium, but you couldn't come up with medium minus.
But it wasn't mild plus or mild medium.
Because there's some things that aren't mild plus that aren't medium minus.
Yes. I never thought
you could say mild, medium subtract instead of plus.
See, I, like you, avoid math because I have a political science degree. That was the degree that had the least amount of math credits. So,
I went to trade school. I don't have like that.
So you understood those. You understood those like engine stuff we talked about. I don't understand.
I'm a mechanic.
Yeah, so, you understood my car analogy. I don't understand. Yeah, I can change a tire.
Yeah,
I can change my oil, maybe. I can take my car to a mechanic.
Yeah,
and I can take my math to an accountant.
Yeah,
and I can take my math to an accountant.
I take my math to an accountant, and then I just fix. I don't fix mine. I'm like every other. I'm like every other mechanic. Jessica's oil change is due, and her AC doesn't blow very cold, so she's just dealing with it, So
and
get a new car. Go buy a new car.
That's what I've always done in the past. Is just
buy new cars.
No, I'm almost done paying it off.
She's almost done paying it off. So
well, then you got to get that AC fixed.
Yeah, I got it.
I drive a Denali and I love it.
Bougie. It's almost get off. My Denali's bougie. My air conditioning's not working. How's your high horse up there?
Listen, it's not that hot yet. When it starts to get really hot, I'll be like, Kevin, what the fuck?
She just needs to drive it to my shop and pull it into my bay.
No,
does she know a mechanic? Does she know a mechanic?
Yeah, she knows one.
Just take it to work and I'll drive it.
That's it. But then all day long, when I'm pulling in other people's cars that make me money, like hers continues to sit outside. So and then when I drive home and I'm like, oh, this AC sucks.
Hey, if you need a mechanic, I can probably hook you up.
Yeah.
I got a guy. If you want somebody to get that done tomorrow, we can get it done.
Yeah, that's it.
I know a guy.
Yeah. She knows the guy that does it for free. So
but he's not going to get it done apparently.
Yeah, she's bougie, but she's cheap. So
smart. Yeah. I like where she rolls.
Yeah, that's it. So Kerr, any final thoughts for our guest night questions?
Man, it was great talking to you, and congratulations on all the success and the continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very humbling to see. Jeff and I always talk about the fact that when we did this, it was very, very inspiring to see the families, the factories, the people that get behind it. Obviously, cigars are a community that allow people to do a lot of different things. You can be sitting in a retail store and you could have a multimillionaire hanging out with, a guy that, is buying $5 cigars, but they're all sitting there enjoying the same thing. And it's doctors, lawyers, mechanics, cigar people, teachers, nurses, whatever. But it's an equalizer, and it allows us to learn and understand the world as it is today, which is a crazy place. And the biggest thing that I've taken from cigars is everybody has a passion and everybody has an expertise. As long as you tap into whatever their passion and expertise is, you're going to learn a lot in this world. And sitting and cigars gives you that time to do that because you have about an hour and you're going to be in company to do it. So it's like I said, it's that equalizer that makes this world a better place.
Yeah. Anybody watching tonight, listening to the podcast in the future, find Crux Cigars. All the social medias are in the video description, podcast description.
I think they're all Crux Cigars if we smartly did that.
Yes, they are. Yeah. You guys did that well, so it was one.
I think we bought them all right away.
That was one thing I did when I started my across all the platforms, get everything. But they also do have a retail finder on the website, so to find your local retailer. Do you guys still have the brick and mortar shop?
We do have a brick and mortar, Tobacco Grove. It is a different entity. I'm not a part of that technically. It's not my company. It's Jeff's company still. And the reason we did that was because Crux needed its own identity. It wasn't retail based, but Tobacco Grove's in Minnesota, great store, phenomenal place. Can't drink there unless you bring it under the table and hide it from Cole. Don't tell him I said that.
So
But,
go up there, visit the brick and mortar, and I think the guys from How About That Cigar, they're up near you, aren't they?
They're up there. Yeah, they are somewhere in Minneapolis. I can't remember, but they come by, and I get to that shop twice a year. So
Okay.
I live in West Palm. That's in central Minnesota, or central-ish Minnesota. I will get there again. It's a great place. But yeah, we have 400 plus doors across the country. We have a retail finder. Retail brick and mortar first. Obviously, there's a couple of online partners in there that can get to those, places that don't have them. But if you have any recommended retailers, you can always, send us a DM on Crux Cigars on Instagram or Twitter. I think we use Twitter. You'd have to ask my Twitter guy if I have a Twitter guy. I'm not sure. My social media marketing manager. But definitely,
and I'm sure the social media guys, they post your events as well.
They do. They post our events. They do a bunch of stuff. If there's anything, you can always. I think Instagram would be probably the most. There is a way to get in touch with us via the website, which is easy if you can find our website, cruxcigars.com. I wanted to get another plug in there. But I think they answer our DMs. I also have a personal one that's Casey Haugen Crux, which I monitor that one. So I will get back to you eventually. I promise. If you contact me on there, I'm not the best at social media. I want to be, but I'm not. It's like the accounting thing. But if you go to Crux Cigars Instagram, I think we're the most active on Instagram right now, or Facebook as well.
All right.
But Instagram, I think, is the easiest one. But Crux Cigars on all platforms that are relevant. If there's a relevant platform that we're missing out, please send us a DM on Instagram to let us know which platforms we're missing, as well as any retailers across the country that you go to that you want to see it at. We'll always take recommendations for great people, great partners, one door at a time.
Perfect. And we'll definitely, because I'm up here in Sarasota, so I'm not too far away. I'm only about 3 hours south or north of you. So
okay.
I'll
definitely we'll set it up.
Yeah, we're building a lounge on our house, so we're definitely going to hold a couple events a year. So we'll definitely have you come up and
I'll get up there sooner than later with some change in personnel. I will be making my way over there sooner than later.
So right on. So are you in Boynton Beach at Smokin?
Not yet. We don't do business with Smokin yet.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be down there at A's in 2 weeks, hanging out with him.
So
I'll put in a word.
That'd be great. Abe, I've done his show. Phenomenal show.
Oh, did you do his show? Okay.
I've done his show. It's been years. But I've done his show in studio. We had a great time. Great people. We just businessly, we haven't got a deal done where, that's the way it works. They don't all work every day.
Yeah, exactly. So right on, Casey. Thank you for coming on and spending. God, I can't believe it's been 2 hours, 15 minutes. So
it's been an hour and 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's a math thing. It's been 20 minutes. So all right. So next time you got something big going on, definitely reach out to us. We'll help you spread the word, get you on the show again, and we'll definitely talk about the next big thing.
Perfect. And now I got your contact, so I'll reach out as well. I'll get you guys something to evaluate here sometime soon. And thank you again for having us. We appreciate it at Crux Cigars. It's a lot of these fun things that we do, and we get to meet a lot of great people and smoke great cigars. And visit us again at cruxcigars.com over platforms. And thank you again for having us on the show.
Oh, you're welcome, man. You have a great night.
Take care, Casey.
All right, everybody start typing in the word cigar for our giveaway, and then let's hear a word from our sponsor, Corona Cigar. I see. It's just Manny. We forgot to ask him about Oak Island, so we'll catch that next week. So tonight's winner.
I'm sure we're not going to miss much.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not going to miss much at all. It is time for the Tapping Ash and Taking Names giveaway presented by Amendola Family Cigars. All right, tonight's winner is going to win the April 2023 Premium Cigar of the Month Club shipment from Corona Cigar.
Very
we got
nice.
a Patoro Gran Anejo Reserva, a Cohiba Black, Romeo y Julieta Envy, Arturo Fuente Hemingway, and a Luciano Mas Igneous, like an $85 MSRP value. So let's share our screen here.
Who can't win, Kevin?
Who can't win? Dave Grillo, Carlos, Corey Suarez, Roger Frazier, and Ben Irwin. So let's Chrome tab giveaway tool here. Let's share that. All right, and let's we got 21 entries. John Lovell. All right, John, send me an email, kevin@cigarprop.com, and I'll get you your prize pack out. Next week, we've got Gerald and Corey of Nomos Cigars to the show. Jessica introduced me to that brand probably a year or so ago. Absolutely love their cigars.
It's been 3 years.
What's that?
It's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years. So last week she introduced me to the show. I reached out to the guys. So make sure you're following Cigar Prop, producer Jessica, Kerr Viajante of Stogie Road Cigars, as well as our guest, Casey Haugen from Crux Cigars. All the links to the social medias are in the video description below or on the podcast description if you're listening to this. Also, in the show notes is the social media links for all of our partners that make this show happen each and every week. We can't do it without them. So thank you, JC Newman Cigars, CigarMedics, Amendola Cigars. We are the muscle. Jake Wyatt Cigars, Illusione Cigars, deep in flavor, deep in your mind. K by Karen Berger Cigars, Corona Cigar, and of course, Drew Estate and Experience Asset. Casey will pull you back up here in a second. Kerr, leave everybody with the final thoughts for tonight.
Like I always said, life is short. When you go in the humidor, look for something new. Look for a boutique. Ask the tobacconist what new they have, what do they have that's local, different, and give it a try. Life's short. Try something new.
Perfect. We'll see everybody next week.